Hey everybody, welcome to the Week 3 recap of the Danker Family Fantasy Football League. I'm your host, Paul Jensen, and I'll be getting into things shortly here. Um, Man, what another good week of football. A lot of stuff going on. Very excited to see how the rest of it goes, but let's go ahead and get into what we're here for. Just a quick look at our standings after 3 weeks. In the East Division, Nels Jensen. First place tied with Carey. They both played each other this past weekend, and Dad got the better of Carey, but they're both tied for first place. And then you got Adrian, Ben, and Carol all in second. And on the west side, we go to Uncle Tom, just continuing his domination, first place at 3-0, the only undefeated team left in our league. And then Garrett uh, standing alone in second at 2-1 with Joan, myself, and John Lopp all tied for third. And then also just taking a quick look, through 3 weeks of the season, Uncle Tom still, shocker, leading the league in points for, and then Carrie down at the bottom for points for. Yet she's 2-1. So we'll see how how that goes right there. For points against, Dad, Nels Jensen, the least amount of points against. So he's been pretty lucky too. Not gonna, it's not just Carey who was lucky those first 2 games. I mean, Dad seems like he's been doing pretty well so far. I mean, at least his team's doing better than the teams he's facing, so that's good for him. And then John Lopp, man, you're uh you're a little unlucky there, giving up the most points. I mean, obviously you're not giving them up, but your opponents have been scoring against you most than any other team. So that is a little bit that can be a bit frustrating, but I mean, hey, that's fantasy. But going to the scoreboard real quick, here are all the oh, this is week 4. Let me go back to week 3. Going on to week 3, all the scores from last week, just some things to note. Most points. So Uncle Tom with 169.08 points. That I believe is also the most points of any game this entire season so far. So Uncle Tom takes home that prize this week. When it comes to the least points, that goes to Carrie at 99. She was the only one who didn't break the 100 mark. But even then, like 99 is actually, not too bad. So, it was a really high scoring week this past week. So we all did pretty good in terms of scoring. Best win, it's myself. I had the highest margin of victory of all the victors. I beat John Lott by 64.02 points. So that was that. And the toughest loss has to go to my mom, Joan. Only 5 point loss to Garrett, and we'll get into more why that's also the unluckiest or the toughest loss as well. She had some opportunities to beat Garrett, but just a few bad luck things didn't go her way. And then obviously Garrett's going to take home the luckiest win. I mean, I wouldn't really call it it's one of those like it just has to be the luckiest win because I mean, all the teams who won scored a lot of points, right? Like 140 is not necessarily lucky. Like you play the right players and your team did really well. It's just, you won by the smallest amount, the smallest margin of victory, and you also gave your opponent score the most points too, and you scored the least amount of points of all the winners. So it just comes down to that basically. So technically Garrett has the luckiest win of the week. Now going on to the games here, we'll start off with mine versus John Lopp. Now I predicted I would win this one, and I got it right. I finally got the win. Didn't go in three. I was a little worried about that going in, but fortunately I was able to get it. Just some few things that I see here that come to mind. For John, you know, Justin Herbert continuing to do his thing. I think he had the most passing yards of any quarterback this past week. So he's going to be great for John this whole season. Zach Moss, 22 and a half points. I thought he'd struggle against a Ravens defense that through the first 2 weeks they showed that they were a pretty good run defense, but the Colts figured something out against them. And Zach Moss, that was a great pickup by John, getting him. So well done there. There's another great performer for you. And then the Cleveland Browns defense. I mean, man, they've looked really good so far. and that might be a keeper. That may it's really hard to find a defense to keep. Like usually a lot of teams, they cycle through defenses. They go week to week. It's, by committee, by matchup. But the Browns defense, they've been doing really well this year. So I wouldn't be shocked if John keeps Cleveland, especially with, like the Bengals struggling. Like they'll play them again this year. The Steelers offense is okay. I mean, the Ravens offense, it's very hit or miss. So they play those divisional teams, and it's just you just never. I think Cleveland's a pretty good defense for John to keep. So, and then for myself, I mean, how just looking at the two receivers, Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen, both getting 40 burgers for me, and that was huge. They did amazing. Tua getting 28 points. The freaking when Dolphins scoring 70 points, that was just insane. Like, when does that ever happen? Never. I mean, almost never. But Tua having another great game. I'm sorry. Going into the season, I was very concerned about my quarterback position. Um, but now I'm feeling kind of great because Tua's been doing really well, and my backup Jordan Love, he's been pretty well too. 3 straight weeks of 20 plus points for Jordan Love. So hey, if anyone's interested in a QB, I got a solid backup here that's you know, could be on the trade market. Just saying. But yeah, and also Jake Moody. Wow, I mean, 12 points from my kicker. That's you don't really see that much of actually, but this was actually a really good week for kickers. So this is not the only kicker I'm going to shout out, but just it's always cool when your kicker can outscore quite a good amount of your players on your team. But anyway, keys to victory. I mean, it goes without saying the receivers. My two receivers. When Devontae gets 42, Keenan Allen 45. Keenan Allen's been insane the last 2 weeks. I mean, he even threw a touchdown pass over the weekend against the Vikings. So, um, these two studs. I'm just so thankful I get that I have these guys because they were really, keeping me afloat so far this season. They've been terrific. And then for John, obviously, the majority of the team didn't hit their projection. Bijan Robinson finally came down to earth. He didn't have a good game. Joshua Kelly may have been wrong on him. I thought it would be a guy worth giving a second chance. The Vikings run defense hadn't looked good up until yesterday. Um, Kelly just wasn't able to get much done. And then Tyler Lockett, he's a guy that's going to be very back and forth, especially when you have another stud receiver on your team with DK to split reps with or shares of catches with. So Tyler Lockett just had a down week. Jordan Addison did okay, not as good as he did the past 2 weeks. I mean, it's only a 5 point difference, so whatever. But and then your tight end, I think I mentioned this in the prediction video, but Dalton Kincaid. Now I like his potential as like you know, for his career. Like I think he'll be a great tight end. But when he's still currently splitting time with Dawson Knox and he's a rookie, it doesn't really bode well for starting tight end wise in the NFL. So that's definitely one thing to also keep in mind there. But yeah, like just overall, I think it's just a tough matchup too for John. And then moving forward, I do think John's looking good starting next week because he's got some people coming back. Alvin Kamara's coming off of the suspension, so he'll easily replace Josh Kelly in that, maybe even or Zach Moss and move Zach Moss up to running back too. But either way, adding Alvin Kamara back is going to be huge for that Saints offense because they really needed him. Like their other running backs have not been doing well this year, and Kamara, even though Kamara's getting up there in age and he's not as great as he was earlier in his career, he's still a solid, dependable running back and a Saints team that outside of Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, they don't really have any other. I mean, Rashid Shaheed's had a good kickoff return and he's been a deep threat a few times. So, but with Jameis Winston, he's going to go with the guys he's comfortable with, and he's been playing with Kamara the past 2 seasons. So, I think Kamara will actually do well, moving forward. And then also Jalen Waddle coming off of that concussion injury. He'll be back, so you might play him over Lockett or Addison, or depending on the matchup, maybe even Zach Moss going down to the bench or anything like that. Now Zach Moss I think is going to do fine. I don't know if he'll consistently be doing as well as he did last week, but it was a good pickup for this past weekend. Just unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end for the win-loss. But just getting Waddle and Kamara back will definitely give John's team a boost next week. And then as for me, Najee Harris has been pretty disappointing. I know it's only been 3 weeks, but I was kind of expecting this to be his breakout game against the Raiders, and it wasn't that impressive. I mean, I know Derrick Henry didn't do well too, but you know, that's just one of those like off games for him. He'll be fine moving forward. The Browns defense is legit. Um, and I like, other matchups the Titans have moving forward. So I'm not worried about Derrick Henry, but Najee Harris I kind of am. So he may be on the trading block, maybe not. And also Kyle Pitts, I it's his third season in the NFL. He had a lot of expectations. Like people thought he'd be the next Gronk, like he was going to be the stud tight end. He hasn't really done much for me in the first 3 weeks. Luke Musgrave, he just started off okay, but he's been getting a little bit better and better every week. And so I really think that maybe Luke Musgrave might be worth giving a shot at starting at tight end this week. I mean, he's been looking like a seasoned pro out there for Green Bay. He's not afraid. He's a guy that's getting a lot of targets lately. He gets open a lot, so I really like maybe the possibility of putting Luke Musgrave in at the starting position for me. But yeah, so overall, I got the win. Moving on to the next matchup, Uncle Tom versus Ben Danker. Tom staying undefeated with this dominant team that he has. I mean, just off the bat, I mean, off the top, you got Kenneth Walker, 30 points. He doubled his projection. That's insane. Um, Tyreek Hill, I mean, doing Tyreek Hill things. What else is new? Um, Bills defense, 31 points. That was just a complete domination win over the Washington Commanders in Washington. So Bills defense is coming back to what everyone expected them to be. And then also, obviously, Mahomes having a good game against an expected good game against the Chicago Bears. Um, and then for Ben, Christian McCaffrey doing his thing. AJ Brown had a good game. Mike Williams. Now Mike Williams got hurt and he's out for the season, so that one stings. But up until then, he got you 25 points, Ben. Um, so that he was, obviously one of your top performers too. He was your top performer, honestly. But in the end, yeah, he's out for the season, so that one hurts a bit. Um, but key to victory, obviously, for Tom, having four different 25 plus scores, right? With Mahomes, with Walker, Tyreek Hill, and the Bills defense, when you have four players that give you that, the rest of them can, as long as the rest of them hit their projection or get close to their projection, then your team's going to be in good shape, most likely. So, yeah, I mean that those four players were really key for you. Josh Jacobs did a little bit better than he had in the first 2 weeks, but whatever. I mean, you didn't really need that from him. Devontae Smith's going to be a guy who goes up and down, based on the matchup too with the Eagles and having so many options for Jalen Hurts to throw to. But yeah, and then Kyron Williams having a down game, so we'll see how that goes moving forward. And then for Ben, I said this last time, and I'm just gonna keep saying it. Your QB situation, man. I know everyone thought Justin Fields was gonna, go off this season. He was gonna really take a next step, but um, it's just not working out, man. I'm looking out for you, Ben. I really hope you try to get a new QB or like maybe get into the trade market or maybe there's someone in free agency that you're able to pick up. But I mean, Justin Fields has just been struggling. Now I know he's playing the Broncos defense next week, and that's very tempting, right? Considering they just gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. But maybe Fields is a guy you give one or two more chances, but your QB situation's not looking too good. And also, obviously with Williams going down, Amari Cooper's a guy to really think about, moving forward as like a weekly starter. He had a bad week 1, but in the last 2 weeks, Amari Cooper's been playing really well. He's been connecting with Watson, so I think Amari Cooper is a guy to really consider as like a flex, or if Brown or Ridley are out for a week for whatever reason, whether it's a bye or injury, I think Amari Cooper's a guy to have. I mean, you have other good receivers too. Chris Godwin's great at times. Jacoby Myers he's only played 2 games, but both games he's gotten at least 15 plus points. So, I mean, your receiver depth is pretty good, but just really consider Amari Cooper as like a solid guy to keep in your starting lineup moving forward. And I got this prediction right as well. I said Tom would win easily, and he did. So it's 2 for 2 for this this past weekend for me. Going on to matchup number three, Nels versus Carrie, father versus daughter. And boy, Dad, you really you really beat Carrie bad. And got gave Carrie her first loss of the season too. Um, but yeah, looking at this, for Dad, Lamar Jackson did his thing. He did pretty well. Debo Samuel had another good game. It's interesting because like Debo's a guy where, I mean, yeah, he's a great receiver, but he's not usually going to give you two straight incredible performances. But this time he did. Like he gave you back-to-back, Rams and 49ers games were both insane. Great. So it was a great performance by him. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. So there you go, giving you a solid 20. Michael Pittman, giving you 16. That's a good play there. Even Evan McPherson giving you 18. Again, this is going to be a great episode for kickers. Kickers are going to get the love in this episode. But yeah, like 18 points by your kicker. I mean, just the total body of work by your roster. And you only had one guy get under 12, and that was Brian Robinson, who I even told you to play. If I recall, I didn't like James Conner's matchup against Dallas, um, and I liked Brian Robinson better, and I was wrong. So you proved me wrong there. If you would have played James Conner, everyone would have gotten double-digit points, and your lowest point total would have been your defense. So, I mean, Dad just had a really solid overall great productive weekend with all of his players, and then for Carey, Kirk Cousins did pretty well. He's been doing pretty well like to start the season, so he's a guy to really, consider keeping your starting quarterback moving forward, especially with Trevor Lawrence and the way he struggled lately. Um, Amon-Ra St. Brown had a good game. Tyler Bass, another kicker. He had 15 points. So, and whenever you can get double digits from your kicker, that's great. Um, but yeah, just not enough help from Carey's team, with T. Higgins, Hunter Henry both having down games. Jahmyr Gibbs, didn't really take advantage of the week he had as the sole guy with David Montgomery hurt. Falcons defense just ate up the run game for Detroit. Um, you know, Jaguars defense, I mean, I really thought they would do much better against Houston. That was very disappointing. So yeah, that definitely didn't help. I thought that would be a great pickup, and I was wrong there. Um, but yeah, and just overall not enough production from the majority of your team, Carry. Uh, but yeah, and then moving forward, obviously, I think James Conner's proven that he's a guy who should start moving forward. He's a must start no matter what the matchup is. Everyone, even myself, I thought he would struggle against Dallas, but he's proved me wrong. And, and the Cardinals are even a lot better in overall than I thought too. I didn't think they had a shot in winning that game against Dallas. So James Conner, definitely keep him as a starting running back as long as he's not on a bye or injured. And then also, I think one thing that I noticed is your receiver depth, Dad, is a little bit concerning. I mean, yeah, you got three good guys in Olave, Samuel, and Pittman. Um, once a few of them go on byes, or if someone gets hurt, Treylon Burks and that's it. Like, yeah, your receiver depth is just a little bit concerning. May want to think about adding a piece, maybe even looking for a trade. That's just my opinion. Again, you don't have to listen to me, but that's just one thing that I see on your roster that could be focused on. And then for Carey, like I said, Kirk Cousins has earned that starting spot in my opinion as a starting QB. Now it could be another matchup based thing, right? But so far Kirk Cousins has looked really, even though the Vikings are 0-3, Kirk Cousins he's not the reason. So he's been doing well. Um, and then it's just overall, it's just a tough team to judge because, like, I mean, yes, like your running backs are a little iffy. James Cook is still a young guy. Jahmyr Gibbs being a rookie. Breece Hall is a young guy too, coming off injury, and he's splitting time with two other backs. So it's just your running backs are, I mean, like they have great potential, that's for sure. It's not consistent enough to trust with any of them, so it's tough to gauge. T. Higgins, again, not consistent. He had a down week one, a great week two, down week three. It's a roller coaster with T. Higgins. You never know what you're going to get with him. Hunter Henry looked great the first 2 weeks and then just had a bad week. Now, is that a sign to come that those first 2 weeks were an aberration, or is Hunter Henry, is he just gonna, is this just tough luck week um, against a good Jets defense, and maybe he'll bounce back and continue to be a top performer in tight ends for fantasy. And then like DJ Moore, it's just tough because the Bears offense has been struggling a lot. So he was a guy that I thought would be doing really well, but he just hasn't hit that mark. And then, guys like Marquise Brown, it's tough to gauge because like he'll go off randomly when you don't expect it. But he's also the number one receiver on what I thought was one of the worst teams in football. But he might be a guy to think about just in general, just putting as a flex or as a starting wide receiver. He's been playing pretty well lately, so just think about him. Um, and I got this one right. I thought Dad would win, and he did. Moving to game four. This was the one game I predicted wrong. I thought Adrian would pull out a close one, but boy, was I wrong. Aunt Carol finally ended her bad luck streak. Got her first win of the season. Good job, Carol. Um, Jamar Chase finally coming through. That's great. Like he had a down first 2 weeks, but week three was just incredible. So it's always good to see, you're the number two overall pick in fantasy finally get the job done. Sam Laporta, I mean, what a guy. I really like that was a steal pickup for you, Aunt Carol. So Sam Laporta is someone that I really like moving forward. He's going to be great for you. Pacheco finally getting his good game. I mean, like I said, I thought he'd be the biggest sleeper in all fantasy. The first 2 weeks he struggled. He finally has a good game. Now it's just that is that just because he played the Bears defense? It probably could be the case, but and he is playing the Jets defense next week, so that is something to consider with him. But yeah, he finally had a good game, and freaking Matt Gay, another kicker, 24 points, unbelievable. I mean, your kicker was your second highest scorer. Like, and you won. So, and the rest of your team didn't even do that bad too. You only had two guys under double digits. Um, actually, wait, I was looking at the wrong one. Actually, no, I was looking at the right. I'm sorry. Yeah, you only had two guys under double digits. So, and one of them was the defense. So, yeah, I mean, like your kicker giving you 24 points. That's very rare. Um, I think he had like what five 50+ yard field goals for Matt Gay. Like that's just incredible. So great, great. That's good to have for you there. And then for Adrian, Deshaun Watson, he had a good game against Tennessee. Stephon Diggs, solid, really good game. And the Eagles defense, they're looking good. The rest of your team, it's just I'm sorry, Adrian. Like I said, I tried to warn you. I think it was a bit overrated. Now, CeeDee Lamb should have done better. He didn't. It was just a bad, the Cowboys were just awful this past week. Mark Andrews had a bad week. You shouldn't really expect that too much this season if he's healthy. Drake London's been quite. He's kind of like T. Higgins. He's up, he's down, he's all over the place. You just never know with him. If you expect him to be better, but for whatever reason, Drake London just not quite there yet. Your running backs. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, meh. Like he's not a guy that's gonna. I mean, he's a starter and he's like a guy that'll get touches for sure, but I wouldn't expect him to be like the best, your best option for running back one, but that just happens to be the case here. DeAndre Swift had a good game, but just wasn't enough. Um, yeah, and then in your bench too, like it was really one of those weeks where there really wasn't anything Adrian could have done to pull out a victory. So it was just a tough luck matchup for him as well. Um, yeah, and then for Carroll, like I said, 2/3 of the team over hit their projection, right? Like Hurts didn't even hit his projection. Joe Mixon didn't hit his, and Rashad White, but everyone else from Jamar Chase down did well. So that was kind of the key to the victory there for you, Carroll. Some things moving forward, there's this conversation for running back too, Rashad White and Isaiah Pacheco. Very matchup based. Whoever's got the better matchup, in my opinion. Maybe even Dalvin Cook if something happens to a Jets running back, but yeah, but after those two and Mixon, running backs looking a little thin. And then, like I said, Laporta might be one of the best steals at tight end. So, he's definitely earned a tight end one spot for you moving forward. Evan Ingram, he had a solid week, but yeah, again, I'm a big Sam Laporta guy, big fan, even though he's on Detroit. But um, yeah, I really like that for you, Carol. And then for Adrian, like I said, the running back group is very underwhelming. You don't really have a guy there that is, you know, I thought Gus Edwards would do better, but he didn't. Luckily, you didn't even listen to me, so good job there. Um, but overall, like your running back group's just there's something there that just doesn't seem right. You don't really have any consistent performers there. Your wide receiver depth after Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb is iffy. Drake London, what are you going to get with him? DeAndre Hopkins is getting old. He's a little overrated, in my opinion. Um, yeah, so it's not looking good in your running back slash receiver depth room. And then the quarterback is, I mean, I know Deshaun Watson had a good game. Is he going to be like this all season? If he's the old Deshaun Watson from his good Houston days, um, then yeah, he's a good guy to keep. We on a week to week basis. Daniel Jones is very matchup based too. Like I said, like he had that game against the Cardinals. Don't expect that much often. But yeah, your team's in a little bit of a weird funk right now. You had a really great blowout win last week, but to me that was a little bit more of an aberration. But I thought you'd win, Adrian. I predicted you'd win, and I was wrong. So thank you for making me wrong, Adrian. All right, and then moving on to the final game, Garrett versus Mom Joan. I got this one right. I said Garrett would win in a close one, and it was indeed a close one. Things that stand out. I mean, for Garrett, it's a lot, but mainly Justin Jefferson again doing his thing. Jerick McKinnon, 17, almost 18 points by the second running back for the Chiefs. So, and then DK, George Kittle, Mike Evans, the list goes on for Garrett. His team did overall real well. Um, for Mom, Raheem Mostert, 45 points. Good God. I mean, two straight good games for Raheem. So he's definitely earned a starting running back spot for you, Mom. So that's great there. It's great that your running back situation is not looking nearly as bad as it was a few weeks ago. So um, that was nice to have. Um, Alexander Madison finally had a decent game. He had a good game against the Chargers. Maybe, the with the Vikings adding Cam Akers, that kind of sparked something in him to perform better. I don't know. Who just could have just been the matchup. But Josh Allen did pretty well again after, had 2 good weeks after that poor week one. Christian Kirk had a nice game. And yeah, another kicker, 12 points. So, but yeah, overall, for Mom, you were let down by Darren Waller and the Cowboys defense, right? I thought Darren Waller would have been the focal point in that game against the 49ers. He didn't do much, and that was very disappointing. I really thought he would do better than Kittle that game, but I was wrong. And then Cowboys defense, you expect them to give you at least 10 points, and that would have won you the game too, but they took away points. They gave you -2 against the Cardinals. Um, Man, like I did not see that come. I don't mean obviously most people didn't see it coming, but it's just man, if they just even do half of what had been doing in the first 2 weeks, that would have been a good win for you, Mom. But man, Dallas letting you down. Like Stephen A. Smith says, they're an accident waiting to happen. What can go wrong will go wrong. So just a tough luck there for you, Mom. And then for Garrett, yeah, like everyone except for the quarterback, except for Joe Burrow, everyone hit double digits. Everyone did well. You know, even your kicker got double digits. So it's just overall just consistent performance by the starting lineup for Garrett. And then just a few things to note moving forward. I know it's still early in the season, but Jared Goff has been playing, and he's not been doing like super great at quarterback, but he's definitely been doing better than Joe Burrow has. And I really think it's time to seriously consider. I mean, it also could be matchup based too, don't get me wrong, but is Goff someone you should be starting over Joe Burrow? Maybe, maybe not. It could be a decision that affects you. It could, I mean, say it was flipped and say the Cowboys defense did do enough to give Mom the win and you had lost by like 1 point. If you had started Jared Goff, instead of Joe Burrow, that would have been the difference. So it's just, and again, that's all, hypothetical, but it's just something to really think about. Joe Burrow hasn't, he's playing hurt. He's been struggling. Just keep that in mind. And then also, you know, Jerick McKinnon, yes, he had a great game. Don't expect that a lot, I would say, unless Pacheco gets hurt or, something happens. But uh, Aaron Jones, hopefully, he's healthy for Thursday Night Football. I would still be playing him over Dameon Pierce. I mean, not sorry, over Jerick McKinnon. Keep Dameon Pierce in your lineup. Don't not play Derek. Yeah, please play Dameon Pierce. But yeah, Jerick McKinnon, that was a great performance. I wouldn't expect that moving forward a lot from him. And then for mom, I would say don't overreact to the Cowboys' struggles. Yes, they let you down, but I like their schedule upcoming. I know they play the 49ers in week 5, but next week they play the Patriots, whose offense has not looked that great. So just, I wouldn't give up on the Cowboys defense just quite yet. It's also just one game too, so who knows. And then also, like I said, your running back rooms are starting to look a bit better, especially if whenever he comes back from injury, then him and Raheem Mostert. That'll be a good solid running back 1-2. And then if Madison plays well, you can keep him as a flex, or maybe have him be a running back 2 with Raheem Mostert at flex, or but depending on bye weeks or injuries, like it's amazing how one week can change the outlook of a team. So, but your receiver depth is looking a little shaky though still. Um, but overall, though, thinks you almost won. I wouldn't be too down on your team as of now, Mom. Um, but yeah, like I said, you were close. It was just a little tough luck. So you should be fine moving forward. And then, so those are all the games. Just one last look at the final standing projections after week 3. Uncle Tom still staying at number 1. What's new? Um, Nels Jensen going to still staying at 2, with Garrett staying at 3. So solid 1, 2, 3. They were both projected to be 1, 2, 3. So they're both staying steady from the start of the season. Yours truly jumping all the way up to 4. I like that. So yeah, going up from 7 to 4. I've been near the bottom half of the league the first 2 weeks, and now I'm up to 4. Now, who knows? Could all change next week, but I'm just gonna, keep a positive outlook. Carrie, even though she lost, she's up to 5. Now, again, this is the final standing projection. This is where ESPN thinks you're gonna end up in the season. So they think Carrie's, gonna start gonna be playing well, much later in the season, and then she's gonna do well enough to be in the top 5. They have John Lopp from 8 to 6. They have Ben from last to 7. Carol, even though she won, she still didn't show enough, I guess. So she's gonna be falling to 8. Adrian going from 6 to 9. And then Mom, they have you in last. Now I kind of disagree with that, but whatever. That's just a son's opinion. So, but yeah, they have Carrie, myself, and Ben are the top trenders. And then Mom trending down, which it was just a tough loss, but wow, they're being a little brutal, I'd say. So, but again, it's just week 3. Don't listen to this. What matters is what it shows at the end of week 17. So that's the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll be coming out with the week 4 prediction video later in the week. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.